With much reluctance, I eventually accepted the invitation to meet with my former friend, Gil Bates. I had not spoken with him for several weeks. The last time I talked with him, he had revealed the true goal of his secret mechanical and scientific research, which was world domination. He said he got the idea for his goal by gazing into a dark mirror. I was horrified by the revelation, with its potential worldwide deadly effects. I tried to discourage him from going down that direction and to use his knowledge, skills, and wealth to benefit mankind. He became consumed with rage and, as an expression of his hostility, ordered me to immediately leave his basement laboratory and house. I thought it would be the last time I would see him. I had assumed that he would continue working on his goal. Now I could not resist seeing for myself if he came up with a project to achieve his goal. Despite my curiosity, I felt like a condemned man going to the gallows as I shuffled wearily towards his home. By the light of my flashlight, I could see the bare branches of trees swaying to the sad musical whistling in the wind. The wind then moaned and groaned and sighed in sorrow. The dark clouds above wept for me. When I reached his house, I turned off my flashlight and put it in my pocket, and then I knocked on his front door. Making a creaking sound, it slowly swung open on rusty hinges. A flash of lightning revealed Bates. He motioned for me to enter. I paused a moment and thought that I should turn away, but I went against my better judgment. I entered his house. After I entered, he slammed the door behind me, and I felt trapped. We walked downstairs to his dimly lit basement laboratory and then sat down to talk. As a child, Gil Bates was curious. He would curiously and eagerly examine the delicate insides of old discarded watches. Huge, cold, and hard rusty gears in factories also fascinated him. He would take toys apart to see how they worked. Perhaps he should have been less curious and more cautious, since his parents would punish him when he couldn't put his toys back together again. His formal education eventually rid him of his childlike curiosity, but his interest in mechanics remained. Maybe this resulted in him developing a mechanical mind. The problem was he also wound up with a mechanical heart. Maybe there's a connection between the mind and heart. Instead of a tender heart of flesh that pumped warm blood, he had a cold and hard, lifeless, unfeeling heart that ticked away like a clock. As an adult, he lacked empathy for others. He was like an emotionless automaton or robot, totally indifferent to a suffering humanity. With his logical, mechanical mind, he regarded his state of being as superior, and so with disdain, he sometimes looked down on others. He thought the world would be better off without some people who he regarded as inferior. He dreamed of a new, mechanical world with everything in order. I took a closer look at something recently, and it gave me an idea for my project, Bates said. Ancient Greek mechanics living in Alexandria have been credited with inventing the mechanical gear. As you may know, gears are evenly sized teeth cut into two different rotating surfaces to lock them together as they turn. All sorts of machinery, including bicycles and automobiles, have been enabled by the utilization of this simple concept. However, recent scientific discovery has been made. There's a 3 millimeter long hopping insect known as Issus coloptratus. Insects in this genus are commonly called plant hoppers and are found throughout Europe and North Africa. It turns out that juveniles of this species have an intricate gearing system that locks their back legs together, allowing both appendages to rotate at the exact same instant, causing the tiny creatures to jump forward. This finding is believed to be the first functional gearing system ever discovered in nature. Learning about this insect gave me the idea to make a mechanical insect. He took out a pill box from his pocket. I thought he would take a pill with a glass of water. Instead, when he opened the lid of the box, I was amazed to see a small sculpture of an insect, seemingly made of watch parts. I'm not certain exactly what kind of bug it was supposed to be. It looked like some kind of wasp or hornet. It had a head with eyes, jaws, and antennae. It had a thorax, it had wings, it had 6 jointed legs. It resembled a firefly inasmuch as its abdomen was made of a small light green light bulb. I thought that perhaps he had given up his goal of world domination and decided to use his mechanical mind to make novel and unique gifts. I was sadly mistaken. I think that you erroneously assume that this is a sculpture and cannot move, Bates said. If so, you may be surprised to learn that it is fully functional. It can turn its head, it can use its legs to walk around, it can even flap its wings to fly. I found his statement hard to believe. However, shortly after he pushed a small button on the mechanical bug's back, I was convinced that he had told me the truth. Soon its legs moved. It crawled up the edge of the pillbox. Its wings began to flap. It then flew into the air and began to fly around the room. I was astonished to see something so fantastic. I bet you have heard of the love bug in the lyrics of old songs, Bates said. It is a fictional bug that bites or stings people and makes them fall in love. Its stinger is like Cupid's arrow. The mechanical bug I have made is no love bug. This is an expression of hatred. I call this bug the hate bug. I intend to use it to secretly kill people that I hate. This bug is deadly. The mechanical bug will kill people. No one will suspect me. It is a weapon of deception. People exterminate bugs. My bugs will exterminate people. There are people in this world that I hate, and I plan on being rid of them. I shared my plans for world domination with you. You discouraged me when I needed encouragement. You argued and disagreed with me. Just because I disagree with you doesn't mean that I hate you. I hate you independently of disagreeing with you. Like an airplane landing at an airport, the bug then landed upon a table. If I had a fly swatter or hardcover book handy, I would have swatted it flat with it. The mechanical insect then took off again. Much to my annoyance, it then began to circle slowly around my head. The hate bug will get you if you don't watch out, warned Bates. Perhaps the bug will go into one of your ears. It may crawl into your ear canal. Then the buzzing noise it makes will drive you mad. It will then bite you. It will dig deeper and deeper and will burrow into your brain. The bug's abdomen began to glow with an eerie, luminous green light. The sight of it dazzled my enchanted eyes. It reminded me of a lightning bug, as the bulb of its abdomen flickered on and off like a flash of lightning. I saw the light reflected in the hateful eyes of Gil Bates. His glassy eyes flashed, and they gleamed with an uncanny luster. "You must feel lightheaded," suggested Bates. "Each revolution of the bug around your head must make it spin. The bug flying around your head makes you look like you have a halo of light. It looks like you are wearing a crown of stars. It reminds me of the rising corona borealis." I felt a strange sensation from the power radiating from the glowing mechanical bug. I could not determine which, if any, of my 5 senses it affected, but I soon began to feel sick. I experienced a shortness of breath. I felt feverish. I began to tremble with fear and to shake uncontrollably. I almost lost my balance and nearly passed out. The bug then landed back on the table. He picked it up and unscrewed the little light bulb abdomen and placed it into the pillbox. I sat there helplessly and watched in horror as he then replaced the abdomen with one with a stinger. The bug then flew into the air and began to fly aimlessly around the room. "Now the bug has a supply of deadly poison in it," Bates said. "The poison is much more potent than that of a normal insect. You will surely die shortly after it stings you. Because I hate you so much, you will be the first to be exterminated by my hate bug. As you are dying, you will surely regret sticking to your principles and criticizing me. You will regret keeping your humanity and throwing away our friendship. One day I will have swarms of mechanical bugs inciting fear and panic and lowering the surplus population." I thought of him following through on this threat, and I felt indignant. How dare he do so much harm in the world? I felt agitated. I would not be manipulated to live in fear of a little bug. I would stand up for myself, and I would fight for my freedom. I resolved to do what little I could do to stop him. But what could I do? How could I possibly escape? Even if I somehow lived to tell my tale, who would believe me? What could I do? "Remain seated and be still, or it will get you," he cautioned. "We are fairly safe as long as we don't move. It senses movement. Above all, avoid making any sudden movement. It will attack when it perceives a threat. Once you are regarded as an enemy, you are doomed. You cannot outrun it. If you run, it will fly after you and sting you. Once stung, the potent potion will overwhelm your fragile spirit, and death will take you into its quietness." Bates kept his eye on the flying mechanical bug. Suddenly, I had a bright idea. I slowly and discreetly reached into my pocket and removed my flashlight. I turned it on, shining the light directly into the eyes of Gil Bates. This surprised him, and he apparently forgot to remain motionless. He quickly raised his hands in front of his eyes. This did not go unnoticed by the hate bug. The mechanical bug immediately flew towards him and landed on the exposed skin of his neck. Bates shrieked. The bug had stung him. He looked at me. The crazed, cunning glint went out of his eyes. They were now 2 dull orbs. He slowly closed his eyes for the last time, and he breathed his last breath. So my maniacal former friend had lost his mechanical mind and made a mechanical bug out of gears from an old watch. Perhaps if he had been less curious and more cautious, he would have wound up with an enlightened mind instead of a mechanical mind. Like the second hand on a broken clock from a second-hand store, he did not keep time well. He had wasted his time on an evil scheme, and when the cold gears in his mechanical heart stopped, he ran out of time. I suppose that the bug would fly away until its watch battery went dead, or that its bloodless body would rust away in a spider's web. However, the mechanical insect landed back in the pillbox and remained motionless. Apparently it turned itself off. I closed the lid and picked up the box to keep the hate bug as a trophy of my triumph over him. I walked up the basement stairs and went out of the front door of his house. I closed the door behind me. It was like closing the lid of a coffin. I shined my flashlight on the path ahead of me. My former friend had been blinded by the light. He had closed his eyes to the light of truth and to the light of day, to descend into the deep darkness of the grave. That darkness is as black as the ink used to write his obituary, which stated, "Gil Bates suddenly died of an allergic reaction after being stung by a common wasp." Now that he is dead, it is a relief to know he will never bug anyone again.